welcome to Maniacal Music Musings. Yes, we're back for the third time in a week. Aren't you all so lucky? But we are here once again. I'm your host, Jeremy. My innocence faded a long, long time ago. When I look in the mirror, all I see is me in my space dive vest, head up, getting ready to be quiet and drive. My co host, though, he looks in the mirror and has to grab the lotion because he's so scarred from all the voices he hears in his head. The lies he tells himself on a daily basis while making the sign of the cross. He said farewell to his sanity as long ago as the glory of Rome. Chancy motherfucking Greif.
Hi.
That was great.
Pretty good for off the fucking cuff there, but
Pretty good. Man. A lot of
I get good after practice. What can I say? But yes, your musers are back once again, and of course we're joined by a guest as always because this isn't as fun without a guest. I mean, it is, but not as fun. Our guest tonight, though, very happy to have on, especially after listening to some of his music. We have Chris Eveland, guitarist for Gelatin Skelatin and like 3 or 4 other bands I saw that I don't remember the names of at this point, but I'm sure he'll tell us all about that in a minute. How you doing tonight, Chris?
I'm doing great, man. Thanks for having me on. I've been looking forward to chatting with you guys. This is cool. This is a cool format. I like it.
Oh, nice. Thank you.
We appreciate that.
Cool. Yeah.
Well, tell us, Chris, what got you into being a musician?
Very early on, it definitely was my grandfather. He was a piano tuner. He had one of the most musical names ever. It was Dennis C. Sharp, right? So even his name was musical.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so he tuned pianos for a living, and then I'd go over as a young guy, and he'd have 5 or 6 pianos all throughout the house. He'd have uprights and grands, and they're all half torn apart. So I always got to see the inside and the guts and how they worked and the hammers. But I just remember very early sitting on his lap, and then just after he was done, cigarette hanging out of his mouth, working on them for a while, and then he'd light up because they were finally in tune. It's quite a process to tune a piano. He would just start playing the most beautiful sounds coming out of it. It was classical music, I'd later find out, but at the time it was just this flurry of notes, and they used to give me goosebumps and everything. And so that's where music started, was definitely with him. And then it was one year he got me a cassette tape. It was 1986. It was the first cassette tape I had, and I had that yellow waterproof Sony Walkman that was big in those years. And the only tape, he went into the music store, asked for the #1 selling album that year, and thank goodness it was Van Halen, because there was a lot of weird stuff that year, right? It could have been anything. So we got Van Halen 5150. It's the only tape I had, and I just played it back, front, back, changed the batteries, played it over and over again. And I didn't know what the sound was, but every time Eddie was doing a solo, I would get these goosebumps and energy, and it got into my soul very early on. I was only 11. Picked up a guitar, practiced. We'd go over to Granddad's house, bring those guitar magazines with the tablature, set it on his piano. He had never heard Hot for Teacher or any of these songs, and he would just sit there and play it perfectly on the piano. Perfectly. An Eddie Van Halen riff, just then the vocal line with his other hand, and I was just memorized. So that's where it all started for me, and I became very passionate very quickly, and I haven't put it down since, man. I've been playing live for 30 years now. I think I'm in 6 or 7 different performing bands right now. A lot of tours, a lot of recordings, met a lot of cool people, traveled a lot. So I love it. Very passionate about it.
That's awesome. That's an amazing story. That actually is an amazing origin story for a musician, kind of. And I love I love your Rogue guitars behind you too. That's awesome.
Cool, man. Thanks.
Well, why don't you tell the audience what album you decided to bring? That I'm dying to get into this. So what album did you bring, Chris, and why did you want to bring it?
Yeah, it took a bit. When I saw your format, I was humming and hawing. Should I throw one of mine in there? Should I put this? I didn't want to do something. So I wanted it to be different. And over the last couple of years, I'm a huge John Petrucci fan. He's one of the best guitar players out there, man. In my world, he's at the top of the mountain, right? There's a lot of them up there with him, but John is the guy. So I definitely decided Dream Theater, but then I didn't know which one to bring. And I just thought I'd bring the one that shifted my mindset as a guitar player and as a musician, and that was Awake. And that came out as it's their third album, but really second for for popularity and stuff. The first one was kind of under the radar. So that one came out, and that brought in the 7-string guitar. That brought in all these crazy instrumentals, and they just went off. Some of their best playing and songwriting is on that album. And I don't know, it stuck with me, and it's still, when I listen to this day, it still sounds fresh. There's a lot of melodies on there. There's some pop stuff mixed with the ridiculous 18-minute, instrumentals that they do, and it's melodic math, great stuff. So I just thought I'd bring that in just to discuss it and see what other people thought.
So speak, I'm right here. She used to say to me, not a word, not a word. Judas on the ceiling, the devil in my bed. I guess Easter's never coming. So I'll just wait inside my like a scream, but sort of silence, living out my nightmares. Voices within me, feeling scratching, we reflect your hopes and fears. Voices discussing me, others steal your thoughts, they're not confined within your mind. Thought disorder, dream control, now they whip my mind on the radio. But where's the God of Eden? I feel led, I feel depressed. Sex is dead, got the sex. Sassy rock here on my crucifix. Like a scream, but sort of silence, living out my nightmares. Voices protecting me. Good behavior brings the Savior to his knees. Voices rejecting me. staring at the wall like the spider in the window. Wish that I could speak for fantasy refuge. Guarding politicians, should I turn on my religion? These demons in my head turn to
when you said Dream Theater, I was like, okay, yes. And then as soon as and I'm like, what album is it going to be though? And then the second later when you said the album, I was like, thank you, the best album they've ever done. Like I found Dream Theater. a few years ago when I was going through like a symphonic metal, like listening to every band on Wikipedia under symphonic metal. So I found Dream Theater and I was freaking in love with them. Like, in the fact they're from Long Island, New York, and I'm a New Yorker. So that, like, to me, that brings it home. And like you said, the lead singer's voice is just one of the legendary symphonic metal voices.
Oh, unreal.
I mean, it's a long list of voices in there, but I mean, Devin Townsend, Marco Itala, one of the ones we're going to be talking about later tonight. I'm not going to announce yet, but just so many amazing symphonic metal voices out there that just. So when you brought the CD is one I already knew I loved, and I'm just happy I got to revisit it like for the first time in 7 years all the way through. So
cool, man. Quite a flip, right?
I applaud it, but. Chancy, sir, we never talked about Dream Theater, so I'm dying to hear your review of it.
So this is actually my first time. I knew who Dream Theater was. I used to work with a guy that he was a drummer, and Mike Portnoy was like his go-to. And he was like, check this out. So I listened to a couple songs here and there. I don't remember which ones right now, but this was my first time going through the album. And it's not that I definitely liked it because the instrumental portion of it all is fucking top tier. I don't know what it is, but there's like a fistful of people that like when they sing that melodic style with the style of play at the same time. Some of the songs it matched with, some of the songs it kind of clashed with. But at the same time, that clash was harmonic, if you will. I honestly it was really good. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I've been slowly breaking open Chancy symphonic metal cherry there, little by little over the last year or so. But all right. Well, what were your top 5 songs there, Chris? Because I'm dying. This is what I'm dying to hear is the top 5 for this album because there's so many good ones.
Yeah, so this one it goes for a ride, right? And when I think of it, definitely it's the instrumental Erotomania, just because when I first got in Dream Theater, honestly, sometimes it sounded like video game. It was just too many notes, too much stuff going on, and I got like, whoa. It was like ADD of music. It was like, and I don't mean that insulting at all. It was just a flurry of stuff that's like, whoa, back up. You can't listen to AC/DC and then listen to a Dream Theater song and be in the same mood. Dream Theater, when I played Erotomania, I would pause it after 5 seconds, say, okay, in that 5 seconds, what did they just do? What is that? It's so out there, right? So it'll always be Erotomania for me just because of the classical, the ragtime piano in the middle, the classical Beethoven piece that they put in the middle. Space Dyed Vest, that really moody one at the end. What a trip that took me on anyways. Beautiful, beautiful melody. Lifting Shadows Off a Dream, to me, that was that was a hit, with everything else that was going on in whatever year this was, 93, I think, 93, 94. I should check on that, but somewhere around there.
94, I believe.
Yeah, 94. So right then, Seattle was taking over the world, right? So we had Nirvana, we had all these bands that, some of them couldn't tune their instruments, but they had a vibe to them. They had that energy. They had really well-written lyrics and stuff. But as far as like players go, didn't really do much for guys that have been playing a long time, right? They weren't that influential. So when this stuff came out, it was like, what the hell is that? And so that was definitely one of the songs that was like, okay, they can do the instrumental stuff, but they can also write some pretty powerful, catchy songs, right?
Right.
And then Lie was a great one because that was the first time I heard him on a 7-string guitar, and I was a 6-string player the whole time. I still remember the video with that Ibanez black guitar, green fluorescent pickups, and when he hit that low 7th string, that little riff in there, I'm like, what is happening, right? So that really, really hit me hard. And I think probably Scarred, man.
Nice.
I think those, yeah. I think so, man. Like those would be the 5. It's tough because, when you listen, I don't want to say AC/DC, Metallica, there's some albums that's like, you listen to that album and it's an album. It's this AC/DC start to finish. This album for Dream Theater was like, oh, that took a turn. that took a turn. Is this the same band? What is that? And then, oh, there it is, right? Like it was all through the spectrum for me. It was all over, and it just showcased all of them, all of the musicians in that band, and yeah, those would be my 5.
Nice. I mean, it's all right, and this is gonna be funny in a minute, but I'm actually happy that we postponed this today because I need more time to really dive into these albums. And when we postponed it today, I was like, sweet, because I was like not working until today because of the holiday. Like I like to listen to stuff while I drive because that's when I absorb music the best. But
oh, cool.
And I mean, so I needed the ride to work today to freaking listen to Dream Theater again and fall in love with the majesticness that is Dream Theater. But all right, now here's the funny part, because I had 3 honorable mentions for this because it's such an amazing CD. I couldn't just pick 5. But Erotomania and Space Dive Vest are my first 2 honorable mentions because I never put non-lyrical songs, instrumentals like on the top of my list. They're always going to be an honorable mention if they're there. But these ones are so good, I couldn't leave them like off the list. They're just too good. Especially, I mean, both of them are good, but Space Dive Vest is just so creepy sounding and like
eerie, right?
It reminds me of some of Nightwish's good instrumentals they do that are creepy as well. So, but and my other honorable mention was The Mirror, because The Mirror is a very it's like a very transcendent song. It was like everybody can relate to that song in some way or another. Like it's just, and if I'm not mistaken, that's the one song that's part of their 12-step suite they do. Like because each album they do, there's a song about being an alcoholic on it, and like the 12 steps of recovery.
I didn't know this.
Yeah, on each album they do, there's a song about being an alcoholic and like trying to fight the battle. Like they call it like their 12-step suite or something like that. Like overall 12 of their albums. But and The Mirror is the one
in the band. Do you know?
No, I didn't get. I don't know who actually they're talking about.
That's the first I've heard that. That's good. That's cool.
Or could be one of their parents or something too that they were talking about. But I mean,
absolutely. Yeah, no, it's all good. I was just that's cool to know.
Yeah, so I mean that song like hit home kind of, and number 5, Lies, like that's another one where like it hits home because everybody can relate to that. Everybody knows some like people who tell lies like on a daily basis, and it's just that song is amazing. Number 4 though was 6 o'clock because that's an amazing opening track to like a CD. Like for the first full track on a CD, that's an amazing opening track, and the what's he called? One of the members was leaving the band after this album was completed, and they knew it the whole time they were recording. So
Kevin Shirley, the keyboard player, I think.
Yeah, the keyboard player was leaving, and they knew that. So 6 o'clock is kind of like the beginning of the songs they did in that album. Like they did like 3 in a row in that album that are all like kind of about the tension of like him leaving, but still having to perform them for like another record.
Yeah.
So, and what's going on? What's going on, CJ?
I picked the album, and you're telling me stuff I had no clue. Man, this is cool. I love it.
And my number 2 was Voices because that song is creepy. Like the lyrics in that song are so creepy, and it's also it's about religion, which I love songs that like talk about like contemplating religion because it's just something that a lot of people go through, and it's a very good theme for symphonic metal especially. So like that, the lyrics and everything in that song just made me love it. And then number 1 kind of ties into the same thing as well. It's Innocence Faded. I love Innocence Faded. It's such the beauty of his voice in that song is just freaking amazing. And it's funny because I was just talking about Dream Theater on podcast with CJ Plain last week or the week before. We were doing a whole episode about Steve Vai's Sex and Religion. So we're talking about Dream Theater as well. We were talking about other good bands, but apparently CJ is going to see Dream Theater, Devin Townsend, Animals as Leaders in 5 days.
Nice. Oh, nice.
That's
that big tour they're on right now. Yeah. That'd be monstrous.
That'd be amazing to see. But Chancy, what were your top 5 for Dream Theater?
Well, number 5 for me was Space Dive Vest. Number 4 was The Mirror. Number 3 was Lifting Shadows Off a Dream. The Mirror was number 2. Or I'm sorry, Scarred was number 2. I said, yeah. Scarred had such a fucking gritty, just chunky guitar intro. I was like, fucking sold to the man with gray in his hair. And if Jeremy knows anything, he already knows my number 1, which is fucking Erotomania. Like I'm a sucker for a good instrumental. I mean, I'm not a proficient player, but I tinker with a guitar, so I appreciate it when I hear it. It's like, fuck, what is going on here? Yeah, it was, and I mean, like, it's that's kind of what I was like. Your point that you made, Chris, about how it like turns on a dime. Like you got melodic, sweet sound, chunky, all this. It's just abrasive, and it's intriguing. It always keeps you going further and further down the rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Which
you'll be listening to a song, it'll be 12 minutes in, you'll be like, is this the same song I just started?
Right.
What is happening here? And theory-wise, it's mind-boggling. When they play live, it's perfection.
sure.
Did you hear the accent? Can you pick up the accent from James singing or no?
Not really, no.
No,
He's Canadian as well.
Okay. I mean, if they're from New York, that's not a stretch. I think more of them be Canadian at least, but
no, just James. Just James is Canadian. The rest of them are all American.
They're all Long Islanders. Yeah. Which
there you go. Yeah.
It's funny because I don't know if you ever seen the show on Netflix, F is for Family, but
I love Billy Burr.
Yeah.
Nice.
F is for Family. The band that the oldest son plays in that, it reminds me of like a starting band at Dream Theater kind of.
Oh yeah, cool.
I wonder if that's who they're trying to like play off of it, or I mean, it could be a number of symphonic bands in America that started around that time, but still, I mean, it's just that's the kind of music they play.
I only got to season 2 of that one though. I'm way behind. It's probably way past that.
Yeah. Oh god, yeah. I think the final season's coming out soon, and it's
oh my gosh, yeah. I'm way behind.
But all right, which I think we're going to keep with the theme of music for right now, and we'll do my album next, just because we'll save the other album for last. But I decided to bring Avantasia. Well, because I heard Dream Theater, I'm like, okay, there are a number of bands in my freaking playlist that I could bring into this at this point. Like, there are so many bands I could bring in that I love. I almost brought an album I talked about with CJ the other day, a Devin Townsend project album where it's about an alien trying to find coffee, like the perfect cup of coffee across the universe. Like, it's an amazing concept album. But then I was like, you know what? I haven't brought Avantasia on this show in a hot minute, and it's time to bring them on for a 4th album. And I'm like, you know what? If he's doing Dream Theater, I can't do one of the new Avantasia albums because it just doesn't line up. Like, it's just not the same anymore. I gotta bring one of the first ones because that's when they sounded like a lot like Dream Theater did. So I decided to bring the first CD they ever did, the first full CD they ever did, the Metal Opera Part 1, which has been one of my favorite albums forever.
Reading the madness they took away under the clouds. Say if in bishop and monk, money whose money become the law. Wait for salvation, I fought for a soul, scared by the heart. The devil was creeping around until she died in the flames that she saw. Father, forgive me, for I've hardly seen the human deed within. Oh, just an intention, so holy and clear, paving the way to madness for us. Serpents on their way to paradise, dying for love, fighting for ages. Serpents on their way to paradise.
Damn you, Don Vito. But I don't know who Evergrey is, CJ. Sorry. But so yeah, I brought the Metal Opera Part 1 because I love the Metal Opera. It's amazing. I mean, every CD Avantasia has done has been amazing, but the metal opera is just classic symphonic metal at its best, and I love everything about it. So I had to bring it. I listened to it. I haven't listened to the full album in a long time, but I listened. The songs on it come on my playlist all the time. So I said it's just time to introduce Chancy to old Avantasia. But what did you think of my album, Chris?
It was cool, man. I put it on, and it definitely reminded me, just from the stuff I listened to growing up, the music of like Yngwie Malmsteen, right? It was that very operatic, the vocals the way it is, with a Maiden kind of feel, and the triplet kind of feels and the stuff. So I loved it. I dug it. But then I started to realize I recognize it from somewhere, and I don't know much about them. I haven't dug too deep into it. But as you can tell by this silly looking guitar here, that's an ABBA guitar. And I play in an ABBA tribute, and we tour all over. We're a 10-piece band. We play everywhere. And somebody sent me a link from these guys covering Lay All Your Love, or they covered an ABBA song, but just metal it up.
They did do Lay All Your Love on me on Lost in Space, I think.
Okay, that's what it was then. Yeah. So I'm listening to it. I'm like, wow, that sounds amazing. So then I dug in a little bit, and I teach guitar too a little bit. And I had a student come in saying, I love these guys. And so we worked on some of their stuff. Anyways, I dug the album, man. The guy's got pipes. He can sing like for days. Killer vocals. I dug the music. I really like it, man. It was a nice change of pace for me because I don't dive too deep into that stuff because I felt like I was there a little bit in the late 80s, early 90s, right? I spent a lot of time in that style. Yeah. Even though it's progressed a lot, it's a little different now. I dug it, man. It was really, really cool.
Yeah, Tobias, that's the other person I was mentioning earlier. Tobias Sammet's voice is just incredible. He's originally from the band Ed Guy, which...
Yeah, I've read that. Yeah, but I don't know much about Ed Guy either.
I am not that much. I like Ed Guy. I've listened to all their albums at one point, and I do like everything they've done, but the best song they ever did is King of Fools.
Okay.
I love that. I love that song by him. But yeah, I'm happy you liked it. I'm like, if he likes Dream Theater, if he hasn't heard of Avantasia, he's gonna love them. Like, because Avantasia is just that. It's a super group. I mean, so many different band singers are on this album, and every album they do, they have so many voices from different symphonic bands, and it's just incredible. But
I checked the list of people that have contributed to their stuff, and the list is like it's all heavy hitters, right? But yeah, very professionally done. Great recording, great sound, killer vocals. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. It was really good, man.
Yeah,
I was so happy that it wasn't an album that I'd heard 100 times over. I'm like, something fresh. So I actually put on the headphones, closed my eyes, and dove in, right? Instead of just going, oh yeah, I know that album. I'll pick these, right?
Yeah, I mean, and plus, like you said, it's operatic. Like the name, the metal opera, is perfectly on point, like of what it is.
Yeah.
And it was Tobias Sammet's big hit into the symphonic world, and he freaking nailed it, and now people love him. But Chancy, what did you think of Avantasia's fourth album on this show?
I'm used to it at this point. I mean, I listened to the Dream Theater album first, so that way I wouldn't potentially get tainted by listening to yours ahead of the guests. I'm kind of glad I went that route. I didn't necessarily hate it. You're gonna love my fucking top 5 though, I guarantee that.
I can already assume, but well, speaking of top 5s, well, I actually had the same for this as I did for Dream Theater. I had 3 honorable mentions as well, and Breaking Away was my first because that's more of like that's almost like a regular heavy metal track. Like that's where you hear like his Ed Guy type of music. And I mean, it doesn't really fit into the storyline at all. It's just kind of like a single that breaks out of the CD for a minute, and then it's kind of like an interlude almost. But which actually, if you think about it, the name "Breaking Away" is perfect. So okay, I didn't even consider that to this moment. But Inside's the next honorable mention because Inside's an incredibly beautiful song. It's kind of a love song, kind of creepy, but I mean, it kind of goes both ways. And then Reach Out for the Light is an amazing song. I mean, it's very like Lord of the Rings-esque and stuff like that, but it's just, I mean, this whole album is, I think, kind of based on Lord of the Rings. So I I found like I found a page a long time ago about like what each song meant and everything for this album, but I couldn't find it again today when I looked. I was pissed. But number 5 was Serpents in Paradise, because the guitar on that song is amazing. Like the back and forth. Like, I mean, and this is just like Dream Theater though. Like every song on this blends together so well that like I'd have to go back and be like, wait a minute, it changed tracks already? Like I would think it's the same song for a minute. But number 4 was Glory of Rome, just because it's very like it's like a battle song. Like it's just a perfect battle song, and so the energy in it is fucking like you catch on to that energy when you listen to it. Number 3 was Farewell, because that's like it was the perfect way to end the CD. Like it's just that farewell song, that pure metal. Tobias's lyrics in it are just freaking phenomenal, as always. Number 2 was Sign of the Cross, because I mean, Sign of the Cross is it's one of the first songs on this album I fell in love with, because I can't think what it reminds me of. I mean, almost like an Iron Maiden type sound to it as well. Because I think they did do a song called Sign of the Cross as well, but it's not a copy. It's not a copy of it, because it's a completely different song. And then of course the number 1 song had to be the band's title song, and that's Avantasia, because that's just a beautiful song. That was the first single they ever put out, was Avantasia. Before they even announced the album, they put out Avantasia as a song, and it just was amazing, a massive hit from the start. And the fact that it actually, I mean, Avantasia, they got it because it's Avalon and Fantasia put together. So it's like 2 fantasy worlds put together, and that perfectly describes this band. It's just multiple fantasy, and they do like multiple CD storylines as well. I mean, Metal Opera Part 1 and 2, and then Lost in Space Chapters 1 and 2, and the newest one there's a 3-parter they just finished. Like it's just the way they do their stories is just so beautiful. Like if you listen to them all in a row, it's just a mind-blowing experience, especially if you're stoned out of your mind. So those are my top 5. What were yours, Chris?
The first one, I put it on shuffle. Here's the thing: a lot of times when people listen to music now, right, it's all singles. They'll listen to 1 song, 2 songs, and that's it. Not too many, especially the younger generation. We said, "Have you checked out the new album?" They're like, "What do you mean? Like, listen to the whole thing?" You know, it's very skip. And I loved doing this because it was listening to the album in its entirety, which is the way musicians want people to hear their album, right? So I like the whole album came across really real. I loved the way it flowed together. It did take some turns, but it all stayed together in a nice, neat little package there. But after I listened to it in its entirety, I put it on shuffle and I went for a drive, because that's what I do. It's got to come out speakers while I'm driving. And Serpents in Paradise for sure. For me, a little bit of the back and forth. There was some killer guitar playing on that, and I'm a sucker for guitars. So that one for me was definitely whatever order we're going in. That was number 1 for me, man. Just because it went. Avantasia was the second one. And I thought the killer vocal performance, great vocals on all of it, but that one, man, there was extra push on it. There was a really nice melody in the chorus part there. Some great harmonies. But Avantasia was really, really good. Loved the playing on that. Farewell hit me. That was a great one for me.
Yeah. Sharon's vocals in that song are freaking incredible. Like, which she's from Within Temptation, which I brought that in the show a couple times too.
Cool.
Yeah. And she, like, her vocals are always on fucking point.
Yeah, it hit me. It was just unbelievable. Sign of a Cross, I thought was really, really cool, and that definitely has that little feel that was going on, and it was like almost like a time machine. Even though I hadn't heard that song, it took me back to picking up the Yngwie and the Maidens and whatever that kind of rock opera was back then. Not to compare the two, but there's definitely an identity or common ground between the two, and it was kind of like a cool time machine for me going back to 15, 16, learning that little triplet thing. But I dug the song, and then Breaking Away was a song that I couldn't. I played that a couple of times. It was pretty cool, man. It was a nice shift for me. It was a really nice change of pace from everything that I listen to on a daily basis, everything I have to learn, all that stuff. So those were my 5 off this one. I thought it was well done.
Well, beautiful. We actually matched up on a lot of them. That's perfect. And as much as I'm dreading this, Chancy, what are your top 5?
I mean, honestly, I have to say, like, you know, Serpents of Paradise, Sign of the Cross, Avantasia, um, Farewell, and Breaking Away, all all fly high as stuff that sticks out. My number 5 was Inside. Number 4 was Prelude. Number 3 was A New Dimension. Number 2 was Malleus Maleficarum. And number 1 was In Nomine Patris.
I honestly can't blame you for your top two because they are really good interludes. But it's just, I knew you were going to do that. I knew it. I knew it.
It's every time I always look and see how long the track lists are, or the track length is, and if it's super short, or if it's like a skit, or any kind of an interlude in the album, it always either makes my number 1, but in this case, it made my top 5. But I figured if I'm going to do that, since he knows I'm messing with him, I got to at least have, you know, stuff that was solid to lean it up with, you know, because I mean, it's good stuff. It's just I enjoy fucking with Jeremy more than I do actually picking my favorite songs.
Well, CJ says Sign of the Cross guitar riff was written by Kai Hansen. He originally wrote it for the Seven Keys record.
Right on.
Cool.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, Tobias. It takes a lot of. He'll have anybody that wants to help him on these. He'll gladly let. He loves it. He loves the cooperation of all these artists together. But all right, I guess it's finally time to go to to go to Chancy's. What do you call it? I guess we can call it an album. What album did you bring, Chancy?
I chose the Deftones Around the Fur. Across this one the same way I always do. I get sent which albums are chosen by you and the guest, and then I go to my handy dandy playlist and I hit shuffle. And the first one that came up was the Deftones, and I was like, hey, I haven't picked these guys yet. And I was like, well, you know, if I'm going to do that, I'm going to pick, you know, the album that I first heard by them, which was Around the Fur. And this is actually my first time sitting and listening to the whole thing from start to finish. So it was kind of like a win-win for me. And honestly, I'm kind of glad that I did it. I'm happy that it's not the last choice that I made specifically, and up to the last two, because there's been a couple of them the last 2 times where I'll make a choice, and then as I'm listening to it, I'm like, what the fuck did I do? This is awful.
See, this is why I actually bring albums I've listened to a lot multiple times. And I know it's like chance a lot. If I brought random shit that came out next, oh my god, the shit I would bring to the show would be horrible. But all right, Chris,
wait, hold on. The Cottonmouth King episode comes out on Friday, so anyone who wants to know the actual horrific shit that he chooses to bring to this fucking show, listen to that one, because he's really trying to church this up a bit. Like, oh, this stuff I pick would be awful, dude. Even the guest was like, this shit sucks.
Yeah, it goes back and forth. One week, the guest fucking hates on my album. Next week, they hate on Chance's album. It goes back and forth like constantly. But I'm glad that we both kind of redeemed ourselves on this one, because it wasn't. This one wasn't bad. Hold the fuck up there, Horsey. Do you really think that you redeemed yourself with this fucking album? Because if we do, we got to have a little discussion after the show.
Well, we can have the discussion if you want, but I definitely think that this album's better than that fucking Offspring album. I don't know what you're smoking.
Not enough to enjoy this album. But Chris, what did you think of Chance's album?
Yeah, so I listen to a wide range of music. And I used to tell people from ABBA to Zeppelin, A to Z, right? So I'm not that kind of guy that's like, because I write and perform and everything else too, right? I would not want anyone to say anything negatively, but I will say that this was my first time listening to a Deftones album in its like completely. And it's, who is it? Steve Carpenter, or who's the guitar player? I can't remember.
I think that's right.
I think it's Stephen Carpenter. So he was one of those guys right when Korn came out, and I don't know, Payment on Death, and all these bands came out, and a lot of these 7-string guitars came in, which was really cool. And Limp Bizkit, like and I'm not saying these are all the same bands, but they came out in that genre together. When the Deftones came out, I loved the energy behind it, and these bands are, for me as a player, are more known for like having really cool riffs. But where they lacked for me as a fan of diving deeper was the vocals, right? And there's some times on this album where there's some really nice melodies where his vocals are doing that, but then when it's the extra push and the extra stuff, and I get it, live, awesome. I'm a huge Pantera guy, but vocally same kind of thing, even though it's a different.
Right.
The delivery of the vocals for me on this album were, man, that's tough. I could almost just listen to it if it was instrumental because of the riffage was so cool. I love the guitar playing. I think the drummer is fantastic. It was very well done, very well produced. But they were just one of those bands when I got the guitar magazines and I got to their songs, I was like, okay, well, there's a couple notes. There's the riff. That's it. That's the end of it, right? And that was the era where the guitar solos were slowly fading away, and it was more about the riff and the attitude, right? Which is cool in its own right. But for me as a fan, not too much.
Yeah.
But I did give it a listen to, man, and there was some cool stuff on there. And I think this guy's going into an 8-string now, which is ridiculous. He's got another string on his guitar, so it's a lower register. And I dove into some stuff online, and man, they're sounding great right now. But the songs I chose were "Heads Up."
Ooh, hold on that for a second. I gotta give.
Yeah, he wants to dig his thumb into my rib.
Yeah. Oh, fuck your rib. I thought I was going to strip your asshole for this one, buddy. But see, I've heard the Deftones. To ever say I listened to them before today would probably be a lie. I think I could be wrong, but thank God that's the fact, because Jesus Christ, dude, this guy's lyrics are just, I mean, his lyrics are not bad, but his fucking voice is just horrible. Like, oh my God. I mean, the guitar is on point. The drums and guitar were fucking amazing, but just his vocals were, Jesus Christ. Like, I struggled to get through this fucking album and actually pick 5. Like, Jesus, like it was, oh my fucking God. Like,
I'll have to keep that in mind. So that way, because they got more albums, and I'll just keep going back to the well.
See, I listened to this album first because I knew what to expect with Dream Theater in my album, and I was just like, let's get this one out of the way first, because just in case I have a feeling, and I'm like, my feelings are usually right on with Chancy, and this one I was like, yep, I'm right. Yep. Oh God. It just sounded like noise. It sounded like fucking noise with the way he sings. But it's almost as bad as fucking I don't even know who to compare it to, honestly. I really don't. But
that was one of the things that I liked, was that
I mean, even
you couldn't compare them to anybody.
Unique, right?
Even Cannibal Corpse is better. Like, Jesus.
I mean, I agree with you guys as far as Chino's bring as little to the table as you can esque sound. But I honestly think that in part, there's a lot of ways, like I could be just my rose-colored glasses from my exposure to it. But like, I always felt that in some ways, his lackadaisical delivery, where it sounds super breathy and it just doesn't really sound like he's trying, it almost kind of accentuates certain parts of the songs. That's just my opinion anyway.
Yeah, it's delivery. It's delivery, right? Like it's not that he couldn't stand up and sing a Dream Theater song. But if James from Dream Theater went over and sang a Deftones song, the Deftones fans probably wouldn't like that either, right? And that's the beauty about music, is if you take the Dream Theater crowd and put them in the Deftones concert, they're probably going to walk out. But those Deftones guys are probably going to go to Dream Theater, and they're probably going to walk out. So people are drawn to what they like. And I do think the attitude and the delivery of his voice, even though it's not my thing, those guys have been selling out shows for decades, and they're still touring and they're still playing and recording, so it works and people like it, right?
Yeah.
There's people with bad taste everywhere. But Chancy, what were your top 5?
Well, there you go.
Yeah. One of them actually is leaned back in his chair right now. Oh. You had to sit up, huh? Fix a scratch. Number 5 for me was MX, and that includes the secret song. Actually, that made my number 5 because of the secret song. I saw that, I was like, 38 minutes. I was like, what the fuck? And I was like, that's got to be a secret song. And number 4 for me was Around the Fur. Number 3 was Die the Flu. Number 2 was La Bia. And number 1 was My Own Summer.
All right.
My Own Summer is probably my favorite song on the album. Well, La Bia, it's kind of a close shave between La Bia and My Own Summer. There's something, like I was saying, about how the way he does it kind of accentuates certain parts of the tracks. My Own Summer in direct specific thought, because like when he's like, the shade is a tool, a device, a savior, that delivery with the way that everything else is behind it is, and then it just goes right back into the chorus clash, and then how it goes from that breathy melodic to the shrill guttural, just back and forth between the two guys. That's just crazy.
All right. Chris, what were your top 5?
I had like My Own Summer. I thought was really solid there. For just again the riff and the production of this. I didn't check to see who produced this. I usually do that just because I like that kind of stuff. I liked Heads Up, Mascara, just for the energy of that.
Nice.
I thought Lotion had some cool writing in it too. And I did like. Did you guys know a band called Svengali?
I've heard of them.
I was gonna say I've heard of them, but I haven't listened to it. No.
Yeah, it was cool, man. They had a song that came out. They were kind of like a melodic rock band, but then Seattle happened, and then they shifted to try to flow with that. And there was on their album In Wire, Lotion reminded me of that Svengali, how he was doing the vocal thing, then he'd let out and then do the covering the mic, and then all these different effects with the mic. It took me back a little bit to that, but I thought that was cool. And then Ricketts was my other one too that I thought was
nice.
Yeah, it was cool to listen to, man. And I actually grabbed one of them off the wall, and I tried to, because I don't think I've ever learned a Deftones tune, maybe back in the day, but it was cool just to see. He's very riff orientated and very rhythmic. He must have been a drummer at some point too, or something. But I didn't not enjoy it. It was a cool album to listen to again because I had never listened to it in its entirety. So for me, that's fresh and that's rare because I've listened to a lot of shit, right?
Yeah, I mean, well, like I said, I got 5 for this album. That's all I have, and even that was pulling a fast one, trying to figure it out. But number 5 was Die the Flu, because I honestly don't know why, it just was. Number 4 was Lotion, because the guitar in that song was freaking pretty good.
It really was.
Number 3 was Be Quiet and Drive, just because I like the be quiet and drive, like fucking like thing, like I'm pretty sure yelled that. I'm pretty sure yelled at my mom when I was a teenager a bunch of times. So, but number 2 was Head Up, because that was a really good song, and then number 1 was Labia, because I mean the whole, like, whether they're talking about drug use or whether they're talking about marriage, I can't tell, but I can kind of relate. I can kind of like see both in there, and it's cool in a way, the way they metaphorically do it. So
I wouldn't be surprised if it wasn't both.
Yeah, probably. I mean, yeah, probably. But so
Chino rode the horse for a while.
Well, giddy up, cowboy. But I mean, I don't. So I mean, yeah. I mean, plus the fact they called it "lady" was kind of funny, I thought. Which is the reason I thought it was like about marriage for some reason, just because the title of the song. But that was my top 5. Like I said, Deftones. Don't bring them on again. But
I'm gonna. It's happening.
Yeah, motherfucker. But I don't know. Then again, maybe it's like what's that band you brought on twice but I hated the first time?
I don't know. That's literally a lot. That's happened a lot. I just haven't said it.
No,
I honestly think that if you listen to like Minerva or
no,
I mean there's a no, I'm just talking about in general, like
I know. I'm trying to think though.
I-
It's not American Head Charge. It's the other screamy band you brought on.
well, I've only brought one American Head Charge album on.
I know. I'm trying to. It was the other one that's like them, but is a lot more like can't understand shit they're saying. But the lyrics are incredible, and they're very political.
Yeah, I got nothing.
I don't know. I can't believe I'm drawing a blank. It must have been a while since you brought them on. I'm guessing. Oh, bleed. Meshuggah.
Oh yeah, Meshuggah. Okay.
Oh,
Yeah. I can't believe I didn't think of Meshuggah, but
Yeah, I was like, I don't know.
Are they from Brazil
I think they're from
or
like Norway or Scandinavia or one of those.
Oh, okay.
yeah, they're like that dark Europe black metal shit. So
Yeah.
I
Well,
mean,
have the
Bleed.
same album cover, right? They're all in the snow and wearing all black by the river.
Bleed.
And the trees.
Bleed is like, honestly, if you're a fan of music, Chris, I would highly recommend checking out Bleed by Meshuggah because
Okay.
it's just it's fucking sick. The drummer plays the drummers in reverse, like no, I shouldn't say in reverse, like inverted, not upside down, but like he plays, you know how they'll use like the kick drum as kind of like a tempo. He does that on the top drums, and then he'll play the other set on the kick drums. Like the way he does it, it's the kind of song I almost want to I want to find out if it's something that you could actually pick out because of the pick technique to it is very unconventional. It's like it's like you gotta it's like everybody wants to go in a 4-pack, but it's like down up down up down up down 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 up down up down down. It's fucking sick. It's just like it, and then you got the drums behind it, like it's like Bill Burr actually does a bit about going to a Meshuggah concert because he's getting taught the drums. And he's all like, "Oh man, this is fucking awesome!" But yeah, I would definitely recommend that. I'm definitely going to be bringing the Deftones back because I think if you listen to other stuff that they did, like Minerva's a good song and album. White Pony is pretty good. There's a lot of stuff that they did later on that it gets better.
Okay.
well,
Bands do grow, right?
We'll take care on that for now. But all right, well, we covered 3 albums, folks, like always. So it's that time. Chris, where can they find your music? Where can they find you? Just promote yourself to the fullest.
Oh, thanks, man. I appreciate that. I've got some songs on Spotify. I've been lucky enough to record some songs with Gary Lalonde from Honeymoon Suite, Forrest Williams.
Oh,
from Big
what's
Wreck.
that?
They did the Foundation.
What's the newest single that you have on Spotify called again? If we did this last.
The latest one I released is called "Moment in Time."
Yes,
yeah, Moment in Time. Yeah,
that's it. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I wrote that with my. Oh, go ahead.
I was saying, if we recorded this last night, I wouldn't know that by heart. But I lost it. I lost it in the 24 hours since then. But I love that. I love that song. That song was amazing.
Oh, thanks, man. I wrote that with my son about 10 years ago when it was all about divorce and addiction and not being with family and separation and all that kind of stuff. And he helped write the lyrics. And we never had the last verse. Yeah, man. It was just a powerful song. And so it meant a lot. And then we released it. We put a video out that I wasn't going to do. It was just for the kids, like a photo album of the last of our lives together. But then everyone was like, no, it's good. Just release it because there's a lot of dads that don't have their kids with them all the time. They love to see that shit, and especially where things are today. So that was a very important song. So thanks for checking it out, listening to it.
Yeah, for sure.
Chris Eveland on Spotify. And then on Facebook, it's Chris Eveland Music. I've got a YouTube channel with a bunch of solos, a bunch of playing. There's so many bands, man. If you just go to Facebook, there's Gelatin Skelatin. We're going on tour. We're opening up for Ted Poley from Danger in England in August, and Crash Diet and Jet Boy and all those bands. The ABBA band's on tour everywhere, so that's SOS, the ABBA Experience. And I'm playing in a band called Soundstorm and Sammy and the Boys. There's a bunch of other stuff, man. But that's it. Facebook, Spotify, YouTube. That's the best way they can reach out and have a listen, see what they think, and go from there.
All right. Well, check them out, folks. I guarantee you won't be disappointed. And
Thanks,
Chancy, where can they find you besides browsing FYE's Bad Music Selection?
I don't think I've ever seen a place that had a bad music selection, but you know, it's all good.
They call it the country section of most stores, but
I suppose. Well, you know, on Facebook you can find me at Chancy. If you can find my last name and spell it right, then you know you've made it into the club. On Instagram and TikTok, it's the Red Eye Roundtable. On Twitter, it's Red Eye Pod. Because fucking Elon Musk won't let me just put the whole thing in.
Giggity.
And you know, the darkest recesses of your nightmares.
Truly. And you can find both of us on Facebook as the Uncensored, Untainted, Unapologetic UQ Podcast Collective.
Name change finally came.
I finally sobered up enough to do it, man. But you can also find us on Twitter and the Gram as @JuggleTheBastard. And you can find us on TikTok as JuggleTheBastard Podcast. And you can find us on YouTube as Maniacal Music Musings. And be sure to check out Blind Knowledge Network, where we stream every week. And if you want to see us live, that's where you go. Or Facebook or Twitter. We go everywhere. Just like your mom. But until next time, we are your musers. And we want to thank Chris for coming on. And it's definitely been a fun show. And we'll definitely have to have him back sometime because he brought a good album. So the ones that bring good albums, we bring back.
For sure.
Right on. Thanks so much for having me, guys.
Oh yeah, for sure, man. It was a great time.
Cool.
And your music will see you next week.